Reverse 1999 is a game where the apocalypse is wet. Therapy is administered by very long naps, and magic is chambered in 45 ACP. In this title, you play as the Timekeeper, a main character with one fatal flaw. She's British. If I had a nickel for every time I played a game with a female protagonist with unresolved childhood trauma and is tangled up in the machinations of a secret government organization that is fighting paranormal phenomena using late 1980s technology, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Along our journey, we'll encounter such characters as a radio pirate.
So you have a mother?
Visual effects artist for the hit band OK Go. A cathode ray tuber. A piece of glass? And frickin' Sputnik. So grab your suitcase and cue up the next record in the jukebox, because every time it starts raining, the world turns on its head and takes another step towards returning to monkey. And brother, the forecast calls for heavy showers.
Storm is raging, twisting time, but my heart's still low. Now the truth is mine, I'll always hold the line. It's the end of an era, and I still survived.
There's spoilers in this video, so think fast, chuckle nuts. R99 has an explosive start to its story, quite literally in this case. Regulus is the host of a pirate radio station aboard her ship on the River Thames, assisted by a floating apple and a bow tie. This is our first clue that this world is not what it seems. After her ship is sunk by unknown assailants, the Timekeeper Verdun and her compatriot Sonetto arrive to save Regulus and fight those who try to blow her out of the water. This game's tutorial is short, sweet, and to the point, as well as being integrated with the story, which is something that I noted that I liked about Honkai Star Rail. The Timekeeper and her allies are from the Foundation, which is definitely not a foreboding name whatsoever. It's here that we learn that spells are stored in the floppy disk. Wow, I can't believe they made a physical version of the save icon. Rather than teleport back to the Foundation with everyone else though, Regulus uses the spell as an opportunity to flee, although the Timekeeper is one step ahead of her. As the time counts down on Verdun's watch, Regulus can't believe what she's seeing. Rain is falling up, and no one seems to be the wiser. Nobody, that is, except for Regulus and Verdun. Time's up. The storm is here.
私は彼らとは違う。私は君を守りに来た。
Reverse 1999 has a strong opening. One that at this point has me hook, line, and sinker. Verdun's suitcase, a bag of holding, contains a shelter, one that she just used to help Regulus weather the storm. Inside, Verdun explains that each time the storm occurs, the world reverts in time, going back to the endpoint of the previous era like one would load a quick save in a Bethesda game. It's been happening since New Year's Eve 1999. And each time, Verdun seems to be the only one who can be out in the storm when it happens. Officially, her job is to record the history that's about to be lost, and try as she might, she's only been able to save various records of the things that have been reverted. People, it seems, are beyond the salvation of the suitcase. Until now. Regulus and the Apple are the first ones beside the Timekeeper that can brave the storm. As if that wasn't bad enough, this world is in the middle of a race war, with humans on one side, and Arcanists on the other. For all intents and purposes, Arcanists are the same as humans with one key difference: innate magical ability. The Foundation recruits the best Arcanists they can find across the globe, while the cult of Manus Vindictae oppose them. Sonetto arrives at the suitcase and manages to recruit Regulus with the promise of a year's supply of Dr. Papper. A bit of an odd bribe, but maybe that's because I'm more of a conch guy myself. Sonetto also has new orders for Verdun, to stop the nearby massacre of Arcanus by human gangsters before it happens. But in spite of this future knowledge, something isn't right.
ピーター・グーゼンバーグ
An Arcanist by the name of Schneider has begun the massacre. This time, it's the humans that are being slaughtered. For her neutral special, she wields a gun. With all the humans dead, Schneider escapes, taking the Arcanist that the Timekeeper was tasked with saving with her. The only clue to where she's headed is a stock certificate labeled with the address, The Walden. R99 does a really good job of introducing its various characters and immediately weaving them into the narrative. Whether it's to foreshadow future events, or help flesh out a part of the world the characters are in, the pacing at which these characters take the stage is immaculate. Regulus learns from X and Madame Z, both Foundation scientists, that there are multiple political factions within the Foundation vying for control. Drubus III helps the Timekeeper as she is being overwhelmed by creatures in the burnt forest she's crossing to get to the Walden. Sotheby, the heiress of a dizzyingly wealthy estate, picks up Sonetto after she's separated from Vertin in the burnt forest. All roads seem to be leading to the Walden, but what could possibly be happening there? It's the Roaring Twenties, baby! What else could it be but a speakeasy? The Walden is host to a lavish party where bets are being placed on the outcome of magical duels. Only instead of cash, all wagers are made with stocks, because those lines always go up. They always go up, right? Vertin infiltrates the party, only to be chosen as the next contender, and her opponent is none other than Schneider. Meanwhile, Sotheby has discovered something that makes driving even more fun: drinking. This leads to an immediate car crash as their vehicle busts through one of the walls of the Walden and into the back rooms. There they find a room behind the main stage that contains a girl who has been drugged with truth serum and left for dead. As the duel between Vertin and Schneider nears its end, they are interrupted by an announcement by the Walden's owner, Forget-Me-Not. Wall Street has crashed. The Roaring Twenties are over, and the Great Depression is nigh. The only problem is it's February. The crash is 8 months early. And the storm? The storm is rapidly approaching. Forget-Me-Not issues an ultimatum to the party attendees: join the Manus Vindictae, or perish in the chaos that follows. All the exits have been sealed, but fortunately just then, Sotheby and Sonetto manage to punch a hole in the wall using an acid potion. They, along with Vertin, Schneider, and the other team members, make a break for the hole in the wall made by Sotheby's car. The human girl that Sotheby rescued, as it turns out, is Schneider's sister, a hostage the Manus were using to coerce Schneider. However, there's no time for reunions. The Manus are rapidly closing in. The only way out is to push the car back out onto the street and use it to escape. Doing so, however, causes the wall to collapse. Vertin sacrifices her opportunity to escape to make sure Schneider's sister makes it out. As the wall caves in, Vertin and Schneider are trapped in a cage made of vines. Sotheby and company make it back to her mansion, but the staff normally manning the place are oddly absent. Sotheby's butler informs her that there was some kind of mass food poisoning incident earlier that evening, and just then on the radio, there's reports of thousands of people falling ill with similar symptoms. It's not the Spanish flu. No normal illness could spread this quickly. Just then, the butler notifies everyone that dinner is ready, and what a feast it is.
ヒント紙幣じゃない
Back at the Walden, Forget-Me-Not is rather amused by the havoc the storm has wrought. In the 90s, people's veins turned into computer cables. In the 60s, everything turned into comic books. And now that the Roaring Twenties are over, people eat anything that can be used as money. That's why there's mass food poisoning. The stuff they think is food and drink are actually things like Nile Red's diamond water. Everything that has happened so far, however, could not have prepared me for what comes next. The leader of the Manus Vindictae, Arcana, invites Vertin to sit down and have a talk. She wants Vertin to join the Manus and begins interrogating her. While Arcana questions Vertin, the black slime she commands has been torturing Schneider. In spite of this, Vertin decides to join the Manus. Arcana gives Vertin her first assignment: kill Schneider.
お食べみかん あげる。さっきの大きいみかんよ。お姉さん、食べないの？あんまり食べたくない。どうしたの？神田。あと一発で終わるの。どうしてやめるの？あたいにはさっさと死ぬ権利すらないっていうの？シュナイダー、ごめん。
Not only is Reverse 1999 willing to take the risk of the protagonist being her own character, I applaud them for letting the story get this dark. Many other gacha games have the main character be a self-insert who either has no participation in the plot or serves as a vehicle for wish fulfillment. I'd say that the creative risk they've taken here has paid off.
Orange is the worst flavoring known to man.
Another example of R99's excellent character writing is how they handled Druvis. Even from the beginning, she's shown to be a conflicted character, showing doubts about the Mana's cause despite being one of their most powerful assets. It pays off when she begins helping Verton and Schneider by guiding Verton to Schneider's body, and miraculously, she's been preserved in critical condition. Druvis, under the guise of sending off Schneider's corpse as a sign that Verton has joined the Manas, gets Schneider to safety. This was Verton and Schneider's plan since they got trapped in the Walden, but it wouldn't have worked without Druvis's change of heart. This chapter of the game is brilliant in that they managed to cast doubt on both the motivations and methods of the Foundation, and firmly cement the Manas as pure evil. The people that they recruited at the party morph into literal monsters. Through Verton's discoveries, it's revealed that the Manas are purposefully accelerating the events that lead to the end of an era, so the storm comes early and the world reverts further in the past, so that they can establish a new world order in which Arcanists rule supreme. Later, they set up what is supposedly a refugee camp to provide aid to the people suffering from the storm's symptoms, only to feed those who came to be treated with a potion that causes them to explode. Throughout this, Sonetto and her allies fight back against the Manas, and they manage to rescue Verton. This leads to a fight with Forget-Me-Not that has a banging soundtrack. Protagonists overwhelm you and you lose the fight? Just go! They can't stop you. In the suitcase, Sotheby develops a new potion that makes it so that those suffering from the storm can eat real food again. For a moment, everyone enjoys a lovely dinner. But alas, it wasn't for long. One by one, all of the normal humans disappear as the storm intensifies. It's then that Schneider reveals her final secret. She's not actually an Arcanist.
あたいを忘れないで。あたいの右胸の鼓動を耳に刻んで。
The next half of the currently released story is a brilliantly mirrored series of events delving into Verton's backstory and the questionable nature of the Foundation. In the present, Verton is placed into a sort of medically induced coma, supposedly to treat a trauma response she had to seeing Schneider dissolve in front of her. As for why she had such a strong episode of PTSD, it slowly reveals the events of her childhood that gave it to her in the first place. In the past, we see a young Verton who, in her childhood innocence, never quite fits in with the Foundation's status quo, and repeatedly questions authority. Her curiosity for the outside world spreads to her fellow students, despite the school administration doing whatever they can to stamp out knowledge of the storm and any inquiries into the nature of what goes on beyond the Foundation's walls. Through the metaphor of chess, we see the Vice President Constantine manipulating the students' plan to escape the Foundation for her own means. She knows that of the students, only Verton is immune to the storm, so she deliberately lets them go, all to shape Verton into the Timekeeper.
Blow up freedom with mind.
My freedom.
In between flashback sequences, we also see the events of the present. The Foundation is bent on splitting up the Arcanists Vertin has rescued and scattering them throughout its various departments in order to maintain strict control. Through the metaphor of Go, we see Madame Z, Sotheby, Druvis, Regulus, and Apple rebel against the Foundation in their own various ways. Everyone fights for Vertin in the best way they know how. Madame Z and Sonetto push for a bill that, if passed, would allow the Arcanist Vertin rescued to be formed into an independent team under Vertin's leadership. Meanwhile, Druvis, Regulus, Apple, and Sotheby take a more direct approach. Lilia, once an enforcer of the Foundation's will and obstacle to Vertin's freedom, becomes the one who breaks her out of the medical facility she's held captive in. It's all masterfully executed and a breath of fresh air for me after playing a number of other games that fail to execute on their characters and world building's otherwise fantastic qualities. R99's gameplay, while nothing groundbreakingly original, is refined and decently polished. The basic gameplay loop is easy to learn, but has a fair amount of depth you can master. Being a turn-based card battler, the cards you draw correspond to one of two skills each character on your team has, and their ultimate. What's unique is that if two of the same card are adjacent to each other in your hand, they combine into a stronger version of that skill. While some skills only get an upgrade in damage, a lot of them gain an extra utility that further expands on a character's skill set.
Stop saying dumb things! You're not even making sense!
So long lives this, and this gives power to thee. I know the moon, and this is an alien city.
Playing a character's card or combining them gives them points towards their ultimate, and once it's ready, you draw it on your next turn. This provides opportunities to strategize the use of your cards. All characters and enemies have rock, paper, scissors countering types, although it is a bit confusing. Rock beats beast.
Okay.
Beast beats plant. Plant beats stars. And stars beat rock.
Huh?
Then Spirit and Intellect are off here kind of doing their own thing. As if that wasn't enough, characters can also do two different damage types: reality and mental. Reality is presumably like beating people over the head with a sharp rock, while the term mental makes me think that they're dealing damage by projecting cursed images into the enemy's mind.
Leave me alone!
While in the future I could see these systems making it so you'd want to raise multiple teams to fit different roles, such as countering a particular type or focusing on a specific type of damage, for now I just throw together my strongest characters and hope for the best. As is typical of early game gacha progression, my account is extremely resource starved, so I can't really afford anything else at the moment. Speaking of characters, let's talk about how these days, most gacha games typically have 3 rarities for characters: garbage tier 3 stars, serviceable 4 stars, and of course, the highly desirable 5 stars. R99 is the first gacha game I played in a long time that goes beyond that by having 6-star characters. And 2-star ones. Obviously the 2 and 3 stars aren't really worth bothering with, but a fair number of 4 stars are decent in the early game, and pretty much all of the 5 stars are mainstays. The Cornbloom, my beloved. While the 6 stars are certainly powerhouses, I don't think they're massively overpowered to the point where they make everything else obsolete.
No way, dude.
While the game does have noticeably better pity for their 6 stars compared to Genshin's pity for 5 stars, if you want, say, multiple copies of Charlie, get luck. I will have to say that even when I have lost the 6-star 50/50, I haven't felt like I lost, although it helps that my standard 6 stars happen to be one of the best DPS characters in the game, and an absurdly strong healer.
I'm joining the war on drugs! On the side of the drugs!
What impressed me most is that Sonetto is not only a starter 5-star, but she's a really solid one at that. While I'm as of yet unsure if power creep will become an issue in the future, for now it seems like it's relatively free to play and low spender friendly.
Deek.
If there are any two things that Reverse 1999 absolutely nails, it's atmosphere and aesthetic. Every part of the game, from the environmental backdrops, sound design, and even the UI, all cultivate a strong retro style that evokes decades past. It's all cohesive and adds a great sense of immersion to the world that R99 is set in. Just take a moment and soak in the soundtrack for a bit. The art direction is immaculate, and settings where magic and technology are intertwined will never stop being cool. I also really like how if you clear the objectives for a level, it automatically saves a replay of what happened, and then you can come back later and have it run through the same sequence again so you can farm for drops. It's an elegant way of implementing auto battle, especially since you're incentivized to occasionally play through it again manually to decrease the amount of time the replay takes. In typical mobile game fashion, you also get a zone you can upgrade to passively accumulate materials called the Wilderness. Customizing it is like making a diorama or messing around with one of those desktop Zen garden toys. All in all, I'm absolutely blown away by just how quickly Reverse 1999 has managed to get me invested in its story, world, and characters.
R99 here.
Through a combination of strong writing, gorgeous art design, and engaging gameplay, I am fully on board to see what the future of this game holds. I hate that this is a gacha game, because that means I can't recommend it in good conscience. At the very least, Reverse 1999 is a perfect case study in what happens when a game nails the first impression.
Storm is raging, twisting time, but my heart still knows. Now the truth is mine, I'll always hold the line. It's the end of an era, and I still survive.